Take one.
You're watching the QUESTionaire podcast.
What can they say?
You are checking out the QUESTionaire.
What's your name again?
The QUESTionaire.
Would you like to have questions?
I don't got it. I'm not that guy.
Submit yourself.
Super fun and entertaining.
This is the questionnaire.
Oh, wait. Okay, damn it. Who wants first? Apparently Stephen Grant, because you just said you hated Deadpool. I don't know where this show has been running. And we've been chatting about things. Like, there was no proper intro, because I don't bloody well care. We got Stephen Grant back in the house. It's QUESTionaire season 3. And you literally, man, like, why do you hate that character? I feel like we've never had this discussion.
Well, I mean, I hate most characters like that, because there's... Just because they're, I mean, the total goofball characters, it's like, who cares? Who cares about those guys? You know, they say stupid things and they do all the horseshit violence anyone wants to do, and it doesn't mean it. None of it means anything. It's meaningless.
Really, man? Because I feel, and maybe this is, I've read most of what has been published about Deadpool, and I feel like there's a depth to that character that a lot of people don't give him credit, as far as in a father and in a tortured figure, and the fact that he uses humor and violence to deal with the things that he's been through. What the fuck?
I'm sorry, I just don't see any of it as meaning anything. All that stuff is just stuff slathered on top of a concept, which is, let's just have him do goofy stuff for the purpose of comedic chaos. And the rest of the stuff is just trying to slather some sort of character on top of it.
And I mean, really, it was.
I gotta say, I'm with Stephen.
It was probably Jerry Duggan's run that really made me love the characters, which is that I think that's really where they started developing.
Jerry's a good writer. I like Jerry's writing, but I can't read Deadpool. I just can't get interested in the character. Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm right here with Stephen on this one. I think I own maybe 3 Deadpool trade paperbacks in my entire collection.
All right, so look, I just want you all to do 3 things, right? Because this show is over.
I'm completely with it. And then not only that, it feels like every time we go a little more forward with the development of Deadpool's character and we start getting somewhere with it, or if it finds a unique voice, every single time something happens, like what I like to call the Walmartification of Deadpool, where you had Daniel Way's run, which started during like the Secret Invasion event, and they started doing some really cool stuff. It had a really dark sense of humor. Like it was a book that had its own unique voice. And then it was while that run was happening is when they started going, yeah, you know what? Why don't we just start like putting Deadpool on t-shirts with like cats and tacos? And I'm kind of right there with him. Every time we get 3 steps forward, it's 7 steps backward. Every single time with that character, and then you not enjoy him as much.
So let me ask you this, Stephen. Then you say specifically Deadpool. What other characters would you put in that same merit?
That's actually
I wouldn't, because I hate that kind of shtick.
Well, no. I mean,
what
characters do you look at in comics, and you're like, that's a Deadpool, or I mean, I would say Lobo's probably another.
God, Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn would be the DC Deadpool. It's the Tex Avery attitude toward comics, which I'm fine with Tex Avery cartoons. I don't really want to see superhero comics trying to be Tex Avery cartoons.
That's an interesting analogy. Yeah. Would you say is there one not from the big 2 that sticks out?
For what?
at being Deadpool, Harley Quinn-esque?
I thought those were two from the big two.
Well, no, one
No,
not
he's saying
from
not
the
from
big,
the big
yeah,
two.
one
Like,
not
there's
from.
Oh, one not
Marvel
from the
and
big two. Well, there was a character that I wrote for, which you probably don't remember at all, called the Scream, which I wrote one story of for Dark Horse on demand back in the Comics Greatest World days, or whatever they were calling it that month. And it was very much the same sort of character, that everything had to be in non sequiturs and, just doing bouncing off walls, doing goofy things. And it was a character they came up with and said, here, we want you to do a story for it. And I'm not sure he ever appeared anywhere except in this Hero comic special, Hero, whatever, Hero Magazine. Yeah, I guess it was just Hero Magazine. Hero Magazine insert that they'd done with X, and which is why I don't know that they ever did another Scream story, but I mean, it's like pulling teeth for me to write that kind of character. It's just, the whole point of it is to just have him be bounce around and goofy and do non sequiturs and say stupid things, and it's not like I'm terribly against that kind of thing overall. I mean, I don't mind humor in superhero comics, and I figured out a long time ago how to write Spider-Man properly, and it's very much that way, but it's for specific reasons. And the reason Spider-Man works, or used to work, I don't know about now that he's bouncing around outer space as a cosmic being or whatever he's doing this week.
It's a weird thing.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, it's like I can't say I've been reading it. I'm just kind of vaguely aware it's there. But I realized when I was writing Spider-Man that the proper take on Spider-Man is that Spider-Man and Peter Parker are not the same guy. I mean, they're the same guy physically, but in his head, Spider-Man is the guy that he becomes to get away from being Peter Parker. Because here's the thing, is that Spider-Man goes up there and he swings around the city and does all this death-defying shit. And Peter Parker is scared to death of this stuff. Just absolutely scared. If he took it seriously for a second, he would be scared to death of it. And so that's why he was constantly quipping all the time. Because that way he didn't have to take it seriously. And the problem of the underlying conflict of the book is that all his villains want to be taken seriously. So he's constantly not taking them seriously because he can't. He's pathologically cannot take them seriously. So the proper way to do a Spider-Man joke, Spider-Man gives a line, the villain responds to it. Spider-Man makes a joke, the villain responds to the joke, and then Spider-Man makes a joke in response to and it should always be this like three-way or almost always, as often as possible, be this three-way bounce of quipping between Spider-Man and his antagonist, because that and the more he makes light of the situation, the more it drives his enemies nuts. And that's the way Spider-Man should be written.
Right, I'm right there with you, because I'm huge Spider-Man fan. If anybody can see that back
no,
there.
you're not.
That's the way that I always saw it. Something that captured my imagination very much when I was a kid is it was put in a really quick, like 2-sentence elegant way in Brian Bendis' Ultimate Spider-Man, where it's the first time, it's like issue 6, first time he ever fights that monster version of the Green Goblin in that story. Peter has this whole thing of I treat Peter like, it's sort of like when your friends convince you to go to a haunted house and you're trying to joke your way through it, and you're nervously laughing through the whole thing so nothing scares you. Sure. Exactly. And then so because Peter is that way, like imagine I don't know, you're an old man who gets diagnosed with some, or you know what, you get diagnosed with some disease and you have no money to treat it, and so you decide, I'm going to rob a bank. And it's like, well, how am I going to rob a bank? And he's like, well, I'll take up a gimmick and make people afraid of me like they're afraid of other supervillains. So let's say your name's Adrian Toombs, you're in a bird costume, you have cancer, you come into a bank, and you're coming in, and you're like, all right, like, this is a stick-up, give me all the money you got. And you're trying to be taken seriously because this is life or death for you. But then here comes Spider-Man, some 15-year-old, 5'7" kid in a onesie who starts making fun of you because he doesn't know your situation and starts beating the crap out of you. So you have this 15-year-old boy that completely derails you trying to save your own life. You're publicly humiliated, and like by the end of it, like it's like this kid has ruined your life, and he's like, "All right, I'll turn you off to the police. Have a great day." And he takes
not really, because he'll get sent to prison and he'll get treatment there.
Well, right. Didn't think we were going to bring up the American healthcare system, but that being said, though, like that's kind of what that character is. It's the self-fulfilling prophecy. They hate him so much because they can't stand it. Like they're like, oh my God, like if I could.
Well,
just
they can't stand it. They can't stand it because they want to be taken seriously, and he doesn't take them seriously. So, like I say, the more they want to be taken seriously, the less he can pathologically do it. And, I mean, that's not really how they write Spider-Man anymore, but that's how Spider-Man, in my estimation, should be written. No one's asking me, but, that's my opinion.
I guess what I was saying, in a roundabout way, what I was saying was I agree with you. Everything that you said, I'm like, that's exactly what my take on that character is.
Yeah, I mean, because I remember classically when I initially was reading, because Spider-Man's really the first character that I really started picking up and reading, and then it expanded into everything it has. And I hope for everyone out there, go pick up something and let it expand, because, then you get into such a plethora of different things, man. And I know, we've been chatting, Stwvn, getting you booked for the show. You said you've got a number of different things coming up. But I know every one of them, you're like, I don't know if I can talk about anything. I don't know if I can talk about anything. And those are dates. And I want to know
I can't now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I want to know now, can you talk about anything?
Sure. Well, I mean, there's stuff that I've had out since the last time. As a matter of fact, I've got a little stuff. I've been writing a lot of prose fiction lately. I'm doing stories right now for, here's what I did. And fairly recently is Dan Brereton did a collection of sword and sorcery stories, of which he and I created, which called Shadow Play, which you can get from him or I think you can get them on Amazon. I'm very bad at telling people where to buy this stuff, but so he and I created a character, a sort of semi-barbarian character that's set in the world of Greek mythology, basically. Sort of this weird hinterland between Greek history and Greek mythology. It's there. And then the other one that's been published so far is, you may have heard of this, history, the Legends of Indie Comics, which has all kinds of people in it, Mike Barron, John Ostrander, Mike Grell, Michael Gilbert, Bob Burden. The list goes on and on and on. But and last in the book is a brand new Whisper story for the first time since 1991. Well, actually, second time since 1991, but the previous one never got published. And I'm doing for Comics Mix. Comics Mix has re-released all 3 omnibus volumes of the original Whisper series. And I'm currently working on a Whisper graphic novel, a new Whisper graphic novel with Rick Burchett drawing it. And what else am I doing? I guess that's what I'm doing over there. I have had these out, which I believe this was a crime comic that came out a couple of years ago. Called Black Jackets that I love. I wish I had good descriptions of these things, but I don't. I did this for Valiant earlier that came out earlier this year. A Livewire series. So, and I'm doing another story for I'm doing if you remember my Twilight Man character, another thing I haven't written in like 3.5 decades. I did a series for a short-lived series, 4-issue series for First called The Twilight Man, and I'm doing a new Twilight Man story for the second volume of Legends of Indie Comics, which also has stories by lots of people, including Howard Chaykin and I think Garth Ennis. That may be a whatever they call it in Kickstarters, where they get more money, a stretch bonus. But there's like there's more people in that one than there was in this one, and this one was like that thick. And I'm writing another Scythian story. That's the character. Actually, it's pronounced. I found out recently it's actually pronounced Scythian. The Scythian character from Swordplay. I'm writing one of those for Bob Greenberger's annual anthology, Thrilling Adventure Yarns. And I'll send you the links to all this stuff so you can,
Yeah, and then in that case, it will all be below in the description. Real quick, we're going to take a commercial break. Shout out to our sponsor. Yeah, Studio Comics. Steven, who's the guy that was the head of that indie book? Because I've had him on the fucking show and I can't remember his name, and it is pissing me off.
I have it's Robert something. Robert Jeshenek.
Yeah, Robert Jeshenek. Yeah, Robert. Yeah. I was like, yeah. I need to hit him up if he's doing another one, man. It was a pleasure having him on, but I did not want to fuck up his name during the show because I was like, he's been on, and I couldn't fucking remember, so I cut to commercial.
We'll be right back.
That's literally what the fuck I just did to cover my ass. So with that in mind, yeah, like I said, right there, that discount code, you can get 20% off. Not the percentages my son said. 20% off at Studio Comics. Not the numbers my son was given. Ain't nobody giving out those percentage on comics. Ain't nobody giving out that percentage off anything anywhere. Let's be real honest, right? But shout out to Robert, man. Like I said, he put out the Indie Comics book together there. I'm very happy to see that there's going to be another one. Is that Kickstarter already running?
Yeah, I think it's. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's up. I'll send you a link to it. It's either up or it's going up in like 2 days. It's either up or it's coming shortly. And let's see. Besides that, Sean McManus and I have been talking about doing a sort of humor action comic, but that's I'm working on doing my first Kickstarter, which will be a science fiction sort of science fiction, sort of superhero comic. That doesn't have it's an alien invasion superhero comic that has neither aliens nor superheroes in it. So yeah, you can figure that. Oh, and coming out late early next year from Moonstone Press is a experimental crime comic that I did called Bystander, which is set in a criminally ridden little town is somewhere in the California desert, and the title character is a guy who. This is what I wanted to see, and I wanted to do this for a long time, and people kept like staring at me like I was crazy, and they probably still will. I wanted to see if I could do a story in which the main character essentially plays no part.
That's interesting.
And it's sort of. I mean, this originally started out way back at DC when I was pitching stuff to them. And I wanted to do, I don't know if you ever read the 50s Phantom Stranger stuff, and a lot of the early 70s Phantom Stranger stuff is kind of the same thing, which was that he was sort of the narrator character to stories, and he walked sometimes he took direct part, but sometimes he was sort of the narrator, and he would walk on stage in the story, but he didn't really have. He wasn't really the fulcrum to the story or how it how it ends. And so this guy is a guy who has his own, who comes into this town, but this guy is a guy who comes into your town and all hell breaks loose. So he's kind of a catalyst, but he doesn't directly have any. He triggers a lot of things, but isn't directly involved in them, and doesn't have any personal interest in them. So it was a very, I think it came out real well. We had a Brazilian artist named Sergio Ibanez draw it, and he drew it and actually colored it. And his art was good, but when he colored it, it just moved it up to a whole different level. So I'm hoping to get him onto the science fiction thing. I don't know if he's going to do it yet, but I'm gearing up for that. And I'm also writing a crime novel. So I'm keeping myself plenty busy, and I'm basically doing whatever I want to do.
All right, so I want to know, between all of that, which, holy hell, it was a lot, Stwvwn. That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. See, I've been throwing it up.
Yeah, I love it. Well, because, like, for real, the last time we talked, you were like, oh, I'm working on a bunch, but I can't really talk about anything. And then get you on the show, and it's like, hey, here's everything. It's like, how did you have time to write all that? I don't know that I have time to read all of that. I'm just saying, right? But
figured it out over a long time.
Fair enough. But the main thing I want to know is you've been able to go back to a couple characters that were characters you established a long time ago in in Twilight Man and in Whisper. And then you've done a number of new things. You've done a number of creating new characters. What at this stage in your career do you find the most joy in? Do you find it to be able to go back to those characters you created so long ago and be able to touch and work with them more, or to be able to go and just create something with nothing holding you back?
I'll tell you this is how obnoxious I was in high school. When I was in high school, everyone was supposed to go in when they got to the end of junior year. They were all supposed to go see their guidance counselor to talk about the future. I had absolutely no interest in doing that. So I kept avoiding going to see the guidance counselor. And one time he finally corrals me in the hall and says, all you got to do is tell me what you want to do with your life. And I thought about it for a minute, and I said, and I swear to God, I said this. I said, what I want to do, when I want to do, and get paid for it. And that was what I wanted to do with my life. That's what I'm doing now. This is what I love. This is what I love to do. And in terms of my career, I don't have any. I mean, my house is paid off. I don't have any debt. I am, I don't desperately need. I mean, money is always nice. I like it. I get. Marvel and DC send me checks periodically out of the blue that they never tell me what they're for anymore, and I just show up in my bank account and that's it. It's like, oh, well, got some money. Yeah.
No. Yeah.
And so I have a lot of leeway now. Let me put it that way. I have a lot of
I know that, and that's awesome. But what I'm saying is, in that leeway, do you like more going back to characters that you created originally, or creating new characters?
Both. Honestly, well, I mean, as long as no one's demanding I go back to those characters, as long as it's my idea, I'm perfectly fine with going back to those characters. If I got an idea for something to do with them, I mean, it's like I've always kind of been this way about stuff. Is that I mean, obviously, when you're a professional writer, in my situation, when someone asks you for a Shogun Warriors story, you cook up a Shogun Warriors story. But otherwise, they stop asking you. But it's not like I was ever driven to do personally driven to do a Shogun Warriors story, or even had, from my point of view, that great an idea for it. I thought the idea I came up with was okay, but if I hadn't done it, it wouldn't have bothered me. But I've always kind of not really cared about what characters I'm doing. I mean, I've cared more about the stories that I'm doing, and this sounds awfully pretentious, but I don't mean it in terms of, I'm I'm so much better than you are. This is just the way that I operate, is that there are stories I want to do. It's not whether I want to do that character or not. I mean, I don't sit around going, my big joke whenever someone asks me, because people ask this a lot, is, well, what character of the big two would you want to do? Well, I mean, any of them that I wanted to do, I've probably done already, but I always tell them the elongated man. And it's not because I don't want to do the elongated man, because I think it would be great fun to write the elongated man, especially if they let me do it the way that John Broome did it, which was the only fun married couple in the history of comics.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, she was, I mean, it was Nick and Nora Charles. She was an heiress and he was a sleuth, and they wandered around the world. They globe hopped and solved mysteries as they popped up. And you know, it was a great whimsical, and people don't really understand the difference between whimsy and satire and, you know, and Deadpool anymore. But you know, I mean, I would actually have a ball writing the elongated man. But as far as do I need to write the elongated man? No. Do I have a particular story for the elongated man? No, not really. But I have stories I want to do, and you find the characters will work with those stories. I mean, the Punisher miniseries, I wasn't greatly driven. I mean, I wasn't sitting there going, man, I want to do this, the Punisher. I wanted to do that story. Yeah.
Do you think it's,
you know,
do you think it's important as a writer, and do you think it makes a better writer if they're focusing more on that and aren't so much worried about the characters that are needed? They're just thinking entirely of the story, as opposed to, because I know there are.
Well, I mean, it's this weird intermeshing. You can't really separate. I mean, this is why I have trouble talking about, well, what's more important, character or story? I'm not really sure on how to separate the two.
Oh, no. That's not.
So
that's not what I meant, because I understand the character always drives the story, but I mean, as far as writers that are looking to go to be able to write specific characters, do you think that perhaps causes it to where the writers are developing?
Well, I mean, I think I can understand it perfectly from a fan point of view. From a professional point of view, it's suicide. You write the characters you're asked to write. You write the characters you can sell. You don't focus on, I mean, you don't live your life dreaming. I mean, you're welcome to live your life dreaming of writing the Fantastic Four. I certainly never did. But if you're not writing the Fantastic Four, your life can't come to a halt. You've got to write, you know, and I just thinking in terms of, I think we'd have much better stories overall, and not necessarily that I'm a great example of that, but I think we'd have better stories overall if people thought more in terms of stories and less in terms of characters.
Yeah, okay. See, that's what I really wonder.
Because the characters and the stories all mesh together. I mean, it's not. I'm not saying don't think about characters, but get the stories that work with those. You know, that work for those characters and vice versa. You know, get the stories that can only work with those characters.
Now, what do you think the difficulty is in that? Because I mean, if you look, there's a lot of comics.
Oh, it's not easy.
What would you say is there any advice you would give to somebody that was looking to do that, like to avoid the common tropes and make it to where you are writing specifically to the character and not making it to where you're just writing a book that hopefully sells?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't have any. I mean, that is the advice. I don't have any specific advice on how to get there.
You heard it.
I mean, getting there.
Great advice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like the old myth of the forest peril, the knights errant going into the forest, having to hack their way through the forest perilous. That's literally what we do. It's, you know, you are walking into the forest perilous, and you got to carve your own way through it. That there's not really any advice for that. I mean, you can give any advice you give ends up being plot tips, basically. And plot tips always end you up in the same stories.
So you heard it here. I gave great advice. Steven doesn't have any for you. That's intriguing.
It's true. That's true. And you know what? My advice is probably better.
But you just said my advice was great advice. Now hold on a second.
Well, I didn't say your advice was great advice. I said it was advice, and I didn't have any. There's a difference. Your advice is probably the only advice you can give, but that doesn't make it any. I mean, I don't mean you. I mean that can be given, but that doesn't make it great advice.
It's a skill issue.
What the fuck, Steven?
It just wins by default.
Yeah, you gave the greatest advice you could possibly give, Jay. That doesn't mean it's great advice.
Right. Exactly. This is the difference between a comparative and a superlative. And best can be both, depending on the context. So
he's gonna snap, dude. I'm looking at him.
Well, I love it. It's like
that's what he has me on this show for.
I mean, no, because I mean, it is. I love every time Steven's been on the show. I can't lie. We love having you on, man. Everybody, go check out the times he's been on. I think what have you been on, like 2 PanCons?
I don't recall.
Whatever, man.
I lost. I've been on at least 3 or 4 times. So.
Oh no, I think it's more than that. I mean, but I'll be honest. I ain't gonna go back.
Well, I said at least. I kind of lost track there.
Yeah.
Before.
Look, there's a website getting set up though. Well, actually, there's a website you can go to right now. I don't know if it's fully set up to where you'll be able to go select a past guest and be able to see every time they've been on the show.
Cool.
That's probably not fully set up yet by the time of this release, but the website you can go look at, and the website is there and has updates as far as to keep everybody up. Here's the current quest here, but it is still a building process because we started the website when we started season 3, so trying to backlog a lot. And Chrissy's awesome, and I still need to get her information, man. And I think that's the thing. What, like you said, you're working with an artist from Brazil. Is it crazy to you that when you started, man, I mean, you never would have worked with someone that far away, right?
One of the first stories I ever did was for Mike Friedrich, and it was drawn by a guy from Japan. So, yeah, I guess I would have.
Fine. I give up.
No, I mean, I did stories for Creepy that were, I mean, working with them is, I mean, in all of it, I wrote scripts. I didn't, by and large, I wasn't by and large ever on the phone with any of them. I mean, I've talked to Sergio over email, but I've never spoken to him on the phone. We've never met, anything like that. It's not like I don't have it's not like I have direct day-to-day contact with these people. I write scripts, they get the scripts, they draw them, and but I mean, I was doing stuff for Warren in my very, very early days of Marvel, writing junk for Warren. I mean, from my point of view, it's junk. It might be good, I don't know, but I remember it being junk. For Warren comics that were mostly being drawn by guys in Spain and the Philippines. So, it's been global for a long time. It depends. It depends how cheap the publishers you're working with are.
Is it just the fact that it's more transparent now, that it's global then?
No, I mean, now there are agents who handle these people, and the rates now generally aren't that different overall. I mean, I think South American artists are probably a lot cheaper than European artists at the moment, because the European market the European comics market is like in boom times now. So, it's
Do you think that means we're going to see a drop in anime? Because if you look at the comic book market, because look, I'm sorry.
Anime's cooking. Anime and manga are both cooking.
Yeah. But
don't.
If you look though, there was the comic book boom, and then anime started to take off, and comic books kind of, are not
right
where they were in the 90s. And now you see the European market taking off. Do you think it'll have that effect on anime to where the European comics essentially take the spot of manga? Because that's kind of what happened with like,
no,
Marvel
because
movies.
there's not the but European comics are big in Europe. They are not big in America. By and large, they aren't very big. They aren't very well known in America at all. Manga took off in America because it's big in America. I mean, it was always big in Japan, and it's still big in Japan.
Well, yeah, and it was,
but it's big in America. So European comics have not had that.
So what you're saying,
and
European comics need their Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, pretty much. I'd say that's, but on the other hand, they've got their Smurfs. So, but Smurfs is a far cry from Lone Sloan, or Lieutenant Blueberry or whatever.
I didn't know the Smurfs were European.
What?
I didn't know the Smurfs were European.
Oh yeah, Smurfs are French.
Huh.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah,
Smurfs. Yeah. Smurfs were originally a series of French comic strips.
Huh. Yeah, no.
I will say American comic books, while the sales might not be reaching anything close to what manga has been doing here in the States or anything like that. But that being said, DC and Skybound through Image Comics has been doing a lot of excellent stuff that I feel like American comics, I don't want to say they're on the rise, like it's going to hit.
Oh, no, American comics are doing boom business at the moment. I'll tell you, DC's big cash cow at the moment is their teen novels that they're doing for the Scholastic, mainly for the Scholastic market. That's a huge, huge cash cow for them.
Teen Titans.
But the comics themselves are selling very well. I mean, in all this tension about what's going to happen with Warner Brothers, every indication seems to be that DC is safe as houses because they're making money. You can't really say that about other branches of Warner Brothers. But DC is making money. So
between the Absolute line, the compact editions that they've been releasing of all of their material, those have been selling like crazy.
Yeah, well, the collections are apparently selling well. But separate, I mean, not that the regular DC line isn't selling well, because it's up in sales. Everyone is very happy with DC sales, but like I said, the big cash cow is like the like things like like Zatanna novels for the teen market, and what's that thing called? Batman and Robin and Howard or something. I mean, they've got all these weird variations on that stuff. And but they're all standalone books, So
right.
And I think
they don't really have any connection with anything going on in the DC universe.
So
and they're doing really well.
In that, when you've got kids reading these books from Scholastic, and they are standalone stories, how do you think it is that you transition them to where they want to read comics and floppies and such?
Well, I mean, I think they are transitioning into it to some extent. I mean, I don't know that. I think it's either a natural progression or it isn't. Either they get. I mean, it's like everybody else. Either they get over them or they continue reading them. I mean, I don't think there's any way you can force it or trick them into doing it or tease them over or anything like that. I think if they want to, they're going to, and if they don't want to, they're not going to. And it's really, it's you can't get much more marketability than that. So
you just made it sound like I wanted to torture people with comic books.
No. But I mean, in terms of looking for a way to do it, I mean, I think they have to be the ones to do it. I don't think we can do it outside of keep giving them material that they want to read. But we try to do that anyway, whether we're successful or not. So you still operate, at best you're still operating on your own suspicions, you know. So
We need to restart this whole commercial because people could probably hear Pokemon in the background.
Please check out this amazing promotion that we have prepared with the questionnaire.
I'm the Unknown Factor. This right here is the obscure fragment.
Are watching this show
Yeah, I'll do editing.
with the questionnaire.
So we've edited this awesome commercial to get you off.
90% off.
We are not giving 90% off.
No, I mean 9.
How about 20?
The only thing that you have to do is enter that code that you have right there.
9.
No, 20.
10.
How about 20?
I'm printing your comics today with Studio Comics Press.
Just use this code right here, right here, right here. Look, I put it somewhere. All right, it's probably actually right here, right. It's right under your chin. It says Quest 24.
That code you gotta enter in our website, and then you will get a whipping discount of 20% in any of the items or products that we have on the website.
9.
20.
9.
20%.
9.
All right.
9.
He wants to give you 9% off. I, as well as Alfonso over there on Studio Comics, want to give you 20% off.
You can get it right there with this amazing code. Just enter it right here. Yeah, just right there. There.
Use that code over at Studio Comics to get 20% off.
Thank you very much. This is a special one for all our friends of the questionnaire.
Type in Quest 24 when you check out, man. You can figure out the percentage you'll get right then because it'll show in your order.
Yeah,
Right?
9% off.
It's 20%.
The Questionnaire, the best current comic book podcast existing around.
So happy to have Studio Comics as our very, very first sponsor. Say Studio Comics!
Studio Comics!
Don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and do all the stuff that you have to do.
I'm the Unknown Factor with the questionnaire. Make sure you check it out.
so
I would say another
there's
genius. Sorry, man.
there's only so much you can do, is what I'm saying.
I will say DC has also been doing this genius thing too. I know it's through some other company, but essentially, DC has been finding ways to get comic books into like gas stations. They've been doing issue 1 reprints of a lot of like their best-selling stories, and they've been selling them at like Speedways and Circle K's. I saw they had some at the Dollar Tree chain. And I'm like, that's brilliant. That is how you get a kid in.
Well, I mean, you know, I used to buy all my comics at 7-Eleven, so yeah, why not? If
I bought these
they-
at a gas
those
station. And the fact that I was able
Cool.
to, like, in a week, like last week, go into a gas station and buy 2 comics was just kind of, because, yeah, like you said, Steven, it was, you know, pharmacies and the local pharmacy and the gas stations. That's where I got my books initially. And, yeah, like, it was kind of cool to be able to pick up a comic at a gas station like that.
Well, if they can sell them at sufficient bulk to pay for the space, cool. You know, I mean, that was the big issue that drove them out of those things in the first place. You know, I mean, this was the thing that would drive me, and I repeated this over and over and over and for decades, because you'd have fans saying, "Oh, you know, comics need to go back into the into drugstores and onto newsstands." Well, you really think they left of their own accord? It wasn't. Comics did not. Oh, they didn't go, "Oh, hey, here's the direct market. We're going to dump it. We're going to dump this whole old system that we've got. We're going to go with this because, oh man, this is so great." They only went to the direct market out of desperation, because the fact is, it got to the point where shelf space was so expensive, got to be so expensive that you know, the guy at 7-Eleven, he could sell 5 copies of Playboy that'd take up this much space for about, and make about 5 times as much money as he could sell, as he could do selling comics there. You know, it's like space just became too valuable. There are too many products out. I mean, this is one of the reasons people
comics.
Well, not debauchery. It's space for anything. You can talk. I mean, it's candy bars. You know. I mean, this is why grocery stores don't have huge magazine racks anymore. Yeah.
When on the Patreon version of the interview that I did, that cannot be seen by the public eye unless you pay money, we talked on there for a little bit about how I first got into comics. And now, mind you, I'm only 25 years old, but we were all joking about it. I got the first comics that I ever read and was reading monthly. I don't know if it just so happened to be where I was from because it was Northwest Ohio. There's no, like, the county I was from didn't even have a Walmart, if it tells you anything. But when I was 7 years old, I was picking up comic books from a pharmacy. That was my gateway. So I don't think it's crazy to say that, like what you're saying, how it's circumstantial and how it's not that they're cutting off those avenues because they want to cut off those avenues. Like, I will say that there is a space for it. And I do think that with American comics, especially with everything DC and Image is doing being kind of on the rise right now, I feel like maybe they should start looking into more avenues like that. Because if they're selling comic books in gas stations and they're selling, like, do it. Like, you know, get it back in a pharmacy.
yeah.
I would love to see that again.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, but the avenues still have to pay enough to make it worth the cost of putting the books in there. So, you know,
See,
I mean, it's all very, it all gets very tricky.
well, and that's the thing with the ones that I've seen. It's ostensibly just a like a temporary display where they've put the and like I said, it's. I mean, these are reprints of, you know, classic issues and issues that sold very well. They're not putting out new issues. They're trying to use it as a starting off point. It would be a similar, like, I mean, Marvel, I think, I don't know exactly what Marvel put out, maybe like the first issue of Civil War, stuff like that, you know, like the bigger arcs. I mean, there's a number of things you could do, but they're like Sandies they put up and they're seeing if they can sell out. So yeah, I don't know that you could ever go in a gas station to doing monthlies. I agree with your point, Stephen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's unlikely that it. I mean, the way the system used to work, and I did work at I've done so many jobs over the years. I did work at a news distributor for a little while, and I wrapped comics for them to go, comics and paperback books to go out to newsstands. And you get all the comics in, and the way that they used to do it is they got all the comics in, and you just pick a certain number, and not even the specific ones, but you're not supposed to take too much of any one, and you just pick number. They stack them out, and you're just supposed to stick together a bunch of them, and then put them on the wrap them up and send them out. But I think it was 25% of the copies that came in, you just tore the covers off and sent tore the logos off and sent them back for credit, and they never went out. And those they generally they either threw out or they sold at dentist's office on the sly. You know, because they were all crooks and they were all looking for. I mean, it was all run by the mob, and you know, there was no guaranteed going to the store to get your next issue, because you never knew if the next issue was going to be at the store. You know,
there is that, and when we had Mark Bagley on, he made a point. It's the whole fact that if you look at comics now, comics in the 90s, comics in like when they really, really first started, you know, the stories were very different. It was like it became from, oh, you could pick up a single issue, and if you missed the issue, I mean, you might miss a little, but you'll be all right.
Right.
You didn't need, like in the case of like, and he brought, I don't remember, like I brought up like the Age of Apocalypse. There was no, like when you initially started collecting comics, Stephen, when Mark did, there was no Age of Apocalypse storyline out there. You know what I mean? And it's only worsened. Yeah, it's only worsened as far as like when they do big events now, especially in the Big Two and sometimes in other places, that there's this huge collection and everybody's connected to everything. This event affects everything. So if you want to get the full context, or even if you're just reading a book monthly that you enjoy, suddenly it will be affected by this story that you might rightly not care about. You know what I mean? So I think that has greatly affected the comic book market. And
I don't honestly think that has a lot. That creates an awful lot of problem, to tell you the truth.
No. I think the main problem that creates is the fact of with story arcs and running like that, especially with the Big Two. How do you ever put them in a gas station?
Well, because you put them in at random.
Oh well, no, I mean like doing it like DC is, and doing it where it's like that's a phenomenal idea. I mean, as far as on a monthly basis,
Yeah,
because
I know,
yeah.
but the artifact and the content are kind of two different things, and they always have been. And just getting the artifacts in there, look, it's like, you ever known any kids who got into Pokemon?
My boy really hard a year ago.
My kid, when she was very young, got hugely into Pokemon. But here's the thing about kids who get into Pokemon. They're interested enough in Pokemon that when I was paying any attention to it, there were like 150 characters. There's now like thousands of characters. There's
slightly
the
over
storyline.
Yeah.
The storyline. Well, okay, at least hundreds of characters. The storyline goes on and on and on. People drop in anywhere. If you're interested enough in it, it doesn't matter. Let me put it this way: if you're interested enough, any point is an entry point. When I was a kid, I would get comics and I would be dying to get the next, when I started out reading comics, I would be dying to get the next issue to find out what happens. And frequently, because of the distribution system, I didn't find those things. I didn't find those. I only read them years later, but I kept hunting for them until I found them because I was that interested. If you're interested enough, you'll do it. If you're interested, and stuff is a lot easier to track down now than it was then, because we couldn't go out and buy trade paperbacks 6 months later.
Oh yeah.
Everything gets in trade paperback 6 months later now. I mean, I've got stacks of books over here that Marvel sends me, just of stuff I've got things reprinted in, and I mean, I've run out of shelf space. As you can tell, it's all I've got stuff piling up behind me here. It's like you can get anything now.
I mean, if you're looking to get rid of some books, I could send you a couple addresses, Stephen. I'm just saying.
No, I mean, they need to be on my bookshelf.
Yeah. But I think you make a very valid point as far as in the artifact. And then if you could get, like what DC has done is genius. And I think if Marvel could do the same thing, it could be really helpful, especially with the fact that how successful the MCU is. Hopefully DC can really make that work. I did love the Superman film, right? And you're someone that's even had success with a comic book film that people probably really don't even identify as a comic book. Like dude, you got Mark Wahlberg and Denzel Washington. Those are two really. Yeah. So I can only imagine how many people seen that and had no idea it was a comic book film. Now, mind you, I guarantee
a lot of people. I get a lot of that.
I guarantee there's film buffs out there that don't know anything about comics. They probably at least watched 5 to 10 comic book movies, and unless they were really paying attention to the credits, had no idea. They just consumed comic book thought and things that were originated there. You know what I mean? It's just that there's certain ones that are very, very much more obvious, right? So where's more Two Guns?
You have to ask them.
No, I'm not you.
Really, Two Guns is another example of a story that I wrote because I wanted to do that story. I'm not particularly to write any more Two Guns stories. I mean, I don't have any great ideas for the characters or anything like that, or a plot. I got other things I want to write. I move on, I mean, if they ever decide they want to make another Two Guns movie, all they got to do is send me a check. So,
Do you think?
That's a good answer as any.
What do you think about that in society as it's been stood, or society as it is now? Do you think it's made it to where there are a number of people that, I mean, they love writing, but it has become their job and they have to do it, as opposed to, like, I don't know, I'd say 300 years ago, if you were a hardcore writer, I don't know how much you were really getting paid for it unless you were translating things for such and such and this and that, you know what I mean?
Well, you probably weren't you probably were probably doing it in your spare time because you didn't have television to watch.
Yeah,
we're locking up here.
That's you watch too much TV, Lair. That's your problem.
Hey, I'm writing.
You know,
I'm getting stuff done. I'm getting paid. It's all right. I actually don't watch enough
and
television.
people used to sleep. You know, people used to go to sleep for 2 hours. They'd get up for 4 hours. They'd get up in the middle of the night and they'd work for 2 hours. And then, you know, on things like that by candlelight. And then they'd go back to sleep for 4 hours because that's how sleep worked. 8 solid hours of sleep is an industrial age thing. You know, so they found time to write.
Factories.
Yeah,
now
basically.
I feel like I need to do some research.
And
like that's I don't know, just to like,
you know, but they found time to write. That's how they do it.
Well, because I sleep screwy, man. Right? Like, go figure. And it makes me want to, like, now I want to sleep like that. Sleep 2 hours, get up, do some stuff, and then go and sleep like 4 more and call it. Like, I think I might sleep better like that. You just gave me a whole life idea, Stephen, that I think, like...
You might. That's possible. It's possible. I mean, they still run that now. If you can't sleep, get up and, you know, do something for an hour. Just not on a tablet, you know. Don't watch television. Don't look at your phone or tablet because that's theoretically the wrong light. Although there's no actual proof that blue light has any effect of that. That's the theory, though. And you could do that now. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
If you want to, give it a shot. Why not?
Hey, man, I'd probably get more comics read that way. I mean, I got a stack building up that drives me crazy. But I want to know, what's the craziest thing you've ever done in your career to make sure you got a story done on time?
I never really had much problem with that. I don't know. I mean, the craziest thing that I ever did in my career to get a story published on time was coloring the Howard the Duck Christmas story that Paul Smith and I had done for Bizarre Adventures over at Marvel, because they didn't have a colorist. They couldn't find any colorist. So I said, okay, I'll color it. And I had never colored anything. I have not colored anything since, but I sat down this. So they gave me a Xeroxes and a thing of watercolors and a little, tub of watercolors. And I took it home and stayed up all night. And actually, there is one other thing. And stayed up all night and colored the thing and turned it in. And Marie Severin took it the next morning and just annotated it all for, put in all the color codes for production, and it went out like that afternoon. So, but my wife and I were, this is, I think, 82 or 83. My wife and I were going on a vacation to, we were living in New York City and going on a vacation to Montreal for a few days. And so I go into, she was working at Marvel. She was an assistant editor at Marvel. And so I go in to pick her up. And I get in there and Ralph Macchio sees me and he says, hey, we need a 4-page Moon Knight story by tomorrow morning. And I'm going, what the fuck? And I said, yeah, okay, I can do it. And I said, what do you want me to do? He said, just do anything, just fill 4 pages. So I went home that night and I sat down at about 8 o'clock and I started writing, and I finished it at about 3 in the morning and went to sleep and got up at like 7 in the morning and got ready to go to Montreal. And we drove down to Marvel, got there right at 9 and went in and I turned it in and then went to Montreal. So that's probably the stupidest thing I've ever done to get a job done on time. But I used to get a lot of jobs But the thing that I found out about that story, at least I've been told, I haven't personally verified it, but because of the name thing, I've always sort of been popularly connected to Moon Knight, but it has nothing to do with me. It was not named after me, and I never really had any great urge to write Moon Knight. The only reason I ever wrote him in Marvel 2-in-1 is I thought it was the only story I would ever do for Marvel, so I thought it would be a good joke, and because I wrote it in the first person, and put my name on it, and but anyway, so I wrote this story and turned it in, and only a year or so ago, someone said, that was the first story that ever conceived of all of Moon Knight's secret identities as separate personalities. And I thought, did it? And it's true, it did. It's just him having a little, I can't do anything in 4 pages. It's just him having a little conversation with all of his personalities. But apparently that became canon. So, there you go. Genius on the fly.
Maybe that's what one of those random Marvel checks is for. When they were doing that TV show, they were like, let's throw him a bone.
No, I don't think so. No, Marvel does not pay for that kind of thing, I'm pretty sure. So,
No, I think
there's
that has more to do with probably the Marvel Unlimited. I know. I would assume that has a degree to do with it, just people going on there and reading your comics. I don't remember. I can't. I follow him on Instagram. I deal with so many creators. I can't remember. But it was something that he was discussing as far as getting royalty checks from for the Marvel Unlimited and the whatever the DC equivalent is. I can't honestly remember.
Yeah, I mean it's possible. Yeah, I mean I'm sure, and it's foreign royalties and things like that. But they never send me itemizations anymore. So I mean I don't care. Give me the money. What am I going to do? Quibble about it?
Oh, that's what. It's like, how do you
what am I going to do? Waste my time going over it with a magnifying glass? Ooh, they screwed me out of 17 cents on that one. I mean, I got no idea. I got no way of figuring out what the royalties is supposed to be. So.
Well, yeah, especially in the digital age, when it's crazy to think that there are so many creators that made things for Marvel, for DC, and now that it's the world changed as far as everything that happened technology-wise since those books were made, but now they're available online, and these people are probably getting royalties that they never thought would ever happen as far as from those books being written like that. So that's interesting. But
certainly Marvel never thought it would ever happen.
Yeah. So there's that aspect of it. But does it worry you for future creators and the future of comics as far as if that could affect the livability of being able to do it, because you're getting a percentage for somebody reading it off the internet as opposed to actually somebody buying the comic? Now, and I'm not saying this is happening now, but I'm saying if it goes that way.
Happening now. It's happening now. I know people who only read it off the internet.
I was trying to be optimistic, Stephen. What the fuck?
Well, what happens, it happens in that regard. It's like I don't. I mean, you're. I hate to say it's in your best interest, because it's not exactly true. I mean, nothing is in your best interest, but if you're a creator, creating your own stuff is your best bulwark against the future. But making money off of it in the present is the tough part. But.
All right. That's the conversation we've had with a number of creators over here on the questionnaire, man, as far as in that regard, and it being that creator owned can be some of the best things, because it is then something that it's yours. It is no one else's. But do you
you get to decide what happens to it, but you still have to have something happen to it. So I've been pretty lucky in that regard. So
do you think it's
I've if nothing else gotten option money on most of the things that I've ever created, and the one good thing about option money is that if they're interested enough, it keeps coming whether it gets made or not. So option money has been a good source of income. Not a great source of income because they don't like to pay that much just for options. There's one thing that used to crack me up when you get all these you'd see all these news reports in like the Comics Buyer's Guide and things like that about, oh, so-and-so optioned their comic for $250,000. And it's like, yeah, okay, but the most you're going to get up front is 10% of that, and probably these days nowhere near that, because the as it goes on, the upfront, the that's the buy. What they talk about, 250,000. That's the buyout for when they start filming. Because that's when you get paid, is when they start filming. Well, other than that, it's just down payment. So. And these days, depending on who, I mean, even big studios want to pay as little for upfront as possible. So, I mean, you can get offers of like $500, $100, $500 for the right to make something of your movie, to make a movie or a TV show. And then when they start making it, that's when you get big money. But people always brag about the payment to come, and look how many things have been optioned as opposed to how many things get made. So that's the amusing part of that, watching that. But I've been fairly lucky in that most of the things that I've optioned, a couple things have gotten made. Most things have gotten optioned and are continuing to be optioned in some way or another. But
and it's
and one of them, they got to the point where they were offering me so little for an option that I just said, okay, forget the option. I am now an executive producer on the film. That's my buy-in. So the property is my buy-in. So, and I still get all the money when from the property rights. So, so
it's funny.
There are ways to handle it.
I wish. We've had so many great quests over here and so many creators. Sometimes I can't remember who said what. I'll be real honest. But it was it Phil? I think it was Phil. I think it was Phil Hesser. I think it was Phil Hesser because he had his series that got optioned. It was one of his creator owned, and it went really well. And he responded with, "Man, that took forever." And they were like, "What are you talking about? That's one of the smoothest processes I've ever seen as far as something going from getting optioned to the screen." And it sounds like you just reinforced that being said to him as far as...
Well, yeah, the average time it takes to get anything on the screen is 7 years. And I think that's longer now because of Hollywood is so screwed up at the moment. So it can take a long time. Do not depend on selling your rights to movies and TV, unless you're very, very lucky, unless you're Robert Kirkman, you're probably going to be treading a lot of water. So.
Yeah, I definitely.
But if you do get it on, it's usually worth it.
Yeah, I definitely say Kirkman's probably the anomaly. What percentage of comics do you think get optioned and never get made?
Oh, 95 probably. Easily. And there are those, I mean, I did a book for Dark Horse in the 90s called Enemy that got made into a Fox pilot. I think it was the first thing that David Goyer ever produced. And his first job as an executive producer. And it was, and that got all the way onto the schedule. On Friday, when Fox was preparing its schedule on its fall schedule on Friday, it was on it. Monday morning, it was not on it. So, that was it. So the pilot is still floating around out there, but no one's ever really supposed to see it. It's supposed to be in a vault somewhere. I unfortunately do have a copy, but it's on videotape, and I have no way to play it. And I'm not supposed to have a copy anyway. But in terms of the money, I mean, Mike Richardson calls me up and tells me that this deal is set and that they're making the pilot. And I said, well, that's great, Mike. And he said, "Well, you don't sound very excited, Steve." And I said, "Well, I'll tell you, Mike. When it gets on the schedule, and then it gets on the air, and it's on the air for enough seasons to do 100 episodes so it can go into syndication. This is when syndication was still big, because it's kind of nothing now. And it goes into syndication, and you put that check for $1.5 million in my hand, because that was the buyout for syndication. Then you'll see excited."
Syndication.
And that's kind of the.
I
And
doubt
that's
most.
kind of the.
Well, you say syndication. Larry, do you even know what that means?
Yeah. It's essentially reruns. It's the reruns and the ad revenue that you make from the reruns.
It's reruns on local affiliates. Yeah.
So like every time you turn on Fox and they're playing a Family Guy marathon, that's mostly in part because it ran long enough that they were able to do it.
I was just
100 episode is the magic number, which is why there are so many things like the 100 that, there's, the stories of demons that escape from hell, and they have to, some hunter has to go round them up. There's always 100 that escape from hell, and that's why, because there's always 100 episodes. That's so 100 was the magic number in syndication. And then, and also when cable TV, basic cable was a big thing. That was all syndication too. When they were showing old shows, that's all syndication. So, the syndication money was huge.
Do you think
it was huge enough.
Do you think it's streaming that's just destroyed that?
Well, I think it still exists. It's slowly destroying cable. It's slowly destroying the basic cable, because the thing about streaming and basic, as opposed to basic cable, is you can watch anything you want anytime you want to. That's the virtue of streaming.
I think something about streaming that a lot of people don't bring up enough. Like, they're starting to do these cheaper ad tiers, like these ad tiers for your streaming services where you don't want to pay as much, but like we'll throw some ads on it and stuff. And what a lot of people don't realize is that's like the modern day equivalent of like a sort of syndication, because not only if you're
it is,
because like if your show is acquiring a lot of views, like on the site or the app or whatever already, then you'll start building a little revenue money off of that. But then the moment somebody doesn't want to pay the $15 and they'd rather pay the $10, but they have to watch a Febreze commercial once every 7 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, you're also getting money off of the advertising, because that's more eyes on the advertisement.
Well,
so
this is something that people who use AI ought to take into consideration too. There are two ways to make money in media: subscription or advertising. And if you don't do one, you have to do the other. And the thing is with most of these streaming services is that they're all to the point now. It's all deficit funding, and most of them have been operating at a loss. And now it's time where their investors are saying, okay, we want to see some profit. And even Netflix has this problem, and Netflix is far and away the most successful, well, second most successful. The most successful is YouTube. YouTube is the biggest streamer in the world. And Netflix is a distant second. But in terms of what we think of as streamers, it's Netflix. But they all have to make money somehow, and they can't keep enough subscribers because people are hip enough to subscription tricks, for one thing. And it's past to the point where all they have to do is rack up numbers, and everyone goes, oh, okay, well, we're doing okay. We're going to stick with this. They're going, hey, it's almost Christmas. We need to buy some presents. Come on, set it up so that we can make some dividends, or we're going to have to sell off our stock. That kind of thing. So if you don't have enough subscribers, you have to go to advertising. That's because those are the only two ways to make money. You either have to unless you want to jack up your subscriptions. I mean, if people want to pay $30 or $40 a month for Netflix, then they can eventually go completely without. And it's just going to be the same thing with ChatGPT. ChatGPT, AI services are in the same situation right now. They're going to, and they're already talking about advertising.
Stephen, we've had the conversation of AI with a number of great individuals over here. And we were contemplating it's going to do a thing with a thing with a thing. And then I've come to the conclusion that thing is not going to be hospitable about AI. So I'm just curious, what's your perspective of it? From seeing it.
Well, I mean, intrinsically, I have nothing against it, but let me qualify that some. If AI can live up to its promise and create, and come up with the means to create wonderful new miracle drugs and, solve all the problems of humanity, more power to it. I'm down with it. But that's not what they need to do. That's not what they're doing, because like I say, here's the big problem with AI. That the people, like I said, the people doing AI are now already getting in a situation where demands are being made on them to start making money. But there is so much investment in AI. And this is one of the reasons they're pushing it so hard everywhere. There is so much investment in AI and so much money leveraged on it that they are desperate to make money in any way possible, which is why they want you to use AI to pay to use AI to organize your grocery lists. They want you to use AI in every single thing because they need the money. They are desperate for the money because they're getting demands to pay back all this. There are trillions and trillions of dollars invested in this stuff right now. It's ridiculous. And and if you pay attention to the stock market, pretty much everyone on Wall Street right now, and they had a dip this week based on this, on everyone's afraid of the AI bubble popping, like the internet bubble popped at the end of the 90s. Which means a lot of people will lose a lot of money. So there is tons and tons of pressure, and that's the big problem, is that they're desperately trying to figure out how to make money, and they don't really care how they make it. I mean, OpenAI is doing porn bots now. They're not calling them that, but that's what they're doing. You can you can go in there and create your own, whatever they call them. Your living humanoid, and mold her to your exact wishes, and then she'll do. I mean, basically, they're turning OpenAI into OnlyFans. It's basically the same philosophy, and they're talking about, well, and Sam Altman, when asked about it, says, well, I don't think we should be called on to be the moral police of the internet, which is kind of a stupid thing to say when you're pushing porn, but that's what they're doing. And I'm not, if people want to watch porn, I'm fine with it, but the fact is that they're doing it to make money. Yeah. And that's the problem with AI right now, is that they want it in everything. They want everyone to do everything with it, and there are things that AI cannot do. I was having this discussion with a producer friend of mine actually a couple of days ago. The problem with AI is that AI can do everything except apply judgment. So. And if you're talking about using,
and not even
talking about and using, what?
Well, it's the whole fact. Like, you realize when you Google your name, the first thing that pops up is internet, right? Now, with the whole AI Google Assistant, I was trying to show somebody what you'd all done, and look, he's got a plethora of work, and he's done a lot, and it's awesome, and I appreciate
how accurate.
Well, no. I went to Wikipedia. I wasn't trying to use Google, because because I was just but initially I was just like Stephen Grant, and it was like, well, Stephen Grant's probably Moon Knight, but it may be blah blah blah, and it may be the Marvel Comics writer, and then it started to say something else, and I was like, I don't want this AI answer, right? I was kind of annoyed about it. I won't lie, like. The fact that it just started talking to me with a bunch of crap that I was like, I needed a very specific piece of information.
Yes.
I just wanted you to Google the name of this writer to give me the Wikipedia so I could look, so I could gather the knowledge on my own. And that's the thing that worries me most about AI, is the fact that people will use it to garner answers and never look any further, and they will take that AI answers. That's gonna make us real dumb, Steven.
Well, I mean, we're kind of starting real dumb. So.
Right, it's idiocracy.
But you know, that's the problem with AI is that it can collate, but it can't judge. It cannot make judgment calls, and this is why it can't be used for art. You know, you can't use it for comics art. You can't use it for comics. I mean, you can't use it for art or writing. You can use it for editing. You can edit with it. You can tell it what to do to edit things if you do simple editing, but you can't make you can't tell it to do judgment calls with editing. It's good for proofreading, but so is a proofreader. So AI doesn't get you anything.
Yeah, I would weigh.
I mean, AI can fix all your spelling mistakes for you, but you still have to go over it all to make sure AI got it all. You know, it can't do that much for you.
And I think that's the thing that worries me about where we are in society, especially with the fact of how it's become so prevalent in art and writing. And I'll say, look, Larry, I would way rather have you editing the show than any AI bot. I don't want to have to, like, because I know Larry's over there on point, making sure with everything that's assembled collectively for the show, and he puts it all together, and then it comes out all pretty like this for y'all, you know. I would not want to trust an AI bot to that, and that's the discussion.
Well, that's because an AI bot can't make judgment calls.
Yeah, and that's the thing we were kind of trying to have a discussion as far as it within art and storytelling and all of that. And I had an associate of mine on the musical side of things who equated it to, like, his final statement was, "Look, man, you can't talk to me about any of the ethical, any of this, unless you can prove to me that we're not in a simulation." And another individual who's a lovely friend of the show, I'm not bringing up any names in this discussion, I'm just going to say this conversation was had, said that right there, it shows that he's nihilist. He doesn't care about the artist because he's stating something that you can't prove it. You know what I mean? He's going to a statement that's
you can't prove you're not in a simulation, true.
Yeah, so he's making it to where it's not possible to have a discussion with him about it because what his final point is. And I'm worried that the people that are focused on AI as far as using it for art and stories, like if that's their go-to point, how do you get them to understand how it's morally and ethically corrupt and and for that matter, it's just not good for us as a species.
The thing is, well, I mean, the answer to that question about prove we're not in a simulation, prove we are. It's a moot point. You know, it's like it doesn't matter.
Right.
You know, you can't prove we are. I can't prove we're not. So, you know, we are where we are. You know,
make the best.
This is where we start from.
Yeah. So
I mean, at this point, we have to. At this point, unless we have some specific reason to believe this is not real, we have to start operating on the assumption that it's real. And that's where idiocy will only take you so far, because frankly, people don't like it when things don't work. And when things don't work, they stop using them. So if it doesn't work, they're going to stop using it. It'll be a fad, you know, it'll be a glorious fad for a while. It's going to be shoved down our throats, but I don't use it. You know, I don't know why you just didn't run up a Wikipedia page. And
I did, man, but I'm saying I just said Stephen Grant initially, and the Google
Yeah,
AI
but
started annoying me. It started. I want to point
oh
that out.
wow,
I want to point that like it
this
annoyed me, Steven. It pissed me off
this
a little.
is this is one of the reasons I try not to use Google any more than than I absolutely have to. Speaking of which, I have to get going. I'm late for
No,
dinner.
that's fine because literally there's a boss meal cooking, and there was a point where you said something that I really wanted to wrap it, but then you continued, and I didn't want to cut you off, Steven, because I love you,
All right,
man.
well,
It's
that's,
always a pleasure to have you on the show, right? For everyone
yeah,
out there,
It was a
have
pleasure.
to,
yeah, for everyone out
have to
there,
do it again
check the link.
sooner.
Yeah, check the links in the description, man. You can find everything that Steven was talking about as long as he sends me everything, and then I'll send other things, and then
I
there'll
will.
be stuff, and then we're gonna set up the website. Hopefully, maybe by the time this quest drops, you'll be able to click his name, and you'll find every time he's been on. Right? I'm not gonna torture him today. I'm just gonna say, go, support the work, support the arts, real ones, not AI. Besides that, y'all, just do 3 things for me. 1, always give it that thumbs up. 2, always get your Comic Con. Besides that, have a good night, y'all.
Thanks so much for hopping on board and listening to the questionnaire.
Keep a listen out to these crazy guys.
The questionnaire.
I missed something.
Like and subscribe.
You're drunk. Go home.
Thanks for checking out the questionnaire.
Don't have a good day. Have a great day.